Today we're reviewing Superfiend, the Judge Dredd animated cartoon, animated in the style of a 90s MTV cartoon. Produced by Adi Shankar, a fantastic producer. Written, animated, and directed by the Junqueira brothers. It's an amazing show. Superfiend is following not Judge Dredd, it actually follows another judge called Sydney. Follows him from his origins as the assistant of a travelling dentist through to becoming a judge who just really enjoys killing people. The reason he became a judge is that he is able to kill people within the law.
Yeah. There are a number of very spine-chilling moments in this show, and they're not built on horror spine-chilling in terms of the way that thrillers work. They're built on the pre-established relationship between two or three characters where there's a strong bond between them, whether because they're father or son or their past or whatever the case may be. And there's another relationship that develops later on in the series, which we won't ruin. But this is the thing about this show and the way it uses violence. It uses psychological violence, which really is the most terrifying, unpleasant kind of violence, without ever being obtuse. It hits your emotions more than someone being torn apart in front of you, which is always it's always frightening until you remember that it's it's a prosthetic. Whereas with psychological violence and emotional violence, you can't tell the difference between the performance and what you're feeling as real. So Adi Shankar and the Junqueira brothers are, whether they're consciously aware of this, I don't know, but they're certainly instinctively aware of it, and they take advantage of it. And that's what makes, one of the reasons why the show is so memorable, is because there is an emotional context to the violence and a psychological context.
An important part of background for this series is obviously Adi Shankar's bootleg universe.
Yeah, he's a fantastic producer, and it's weird to me to be talking about a producer because they don't often have that kind of...
In fact, they're often the people
input.
everyone hates, actually, and people who ruin projects.
Yeah, it's like, the producer's coming, he's going to ask us to water this scene down and change this great location to this mediocre location. But no, Adi Shankar is completely different because he is himself a creative force.
Yeah.
And he's the driving force, I believe, behind these projects.
I believe so.
And he appears to be visibly challenging the filmmakers under him to go further, take it further.
Oh, absolutely.
And break boundaries.
It's definitely what it feels like.
The other thing I like about Adi Shankar is how subversive he is. And that is that he is willing to take a project and literally actually flip it on its head and make something, help you to see it from a different perspective, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah, and one of the things I think really works in his favor is that rather than just a producer coming along to an intellectual property that they are unfamiliar with and just saying, okay, it should be like this because this is what the audiences appreciate, this is what they like. Adi Shankar comes along, he takes an intellectual property that he loves, and you can see that, you can feel that in the work, that he has a passion for these projects.
He has to love it because he's risking a lawsuit every single time he releases something.
Yeah. One thing I want to go over is the soundtrack and the score.
Oh, yes.
Which is fantastic.
The music is absolutely wonderful. And again, just like the animation, it perfectly captures the feeling of 1997. It really ties in with the MTV kind of mentality. The music is front and center.
It's a direct link, isn't it, to that world?
But when the music is playing, it's front and center. It's a huge part of what you're overtly experiencing, as opposed to the cinematic experience where the music is supposed to be secondary.
I really appreciated the way they picked songs that are against the type of the world. It works so well in a way that doesn't come across as
hacky.
Hacky. It doesn't come across as hacky
or too deliberate.
Trying to be like, it's a grotesque world, so let's put a really happy, upbeat pop song in there.
Just
this is
like
totally... it totally contrasts with the scene,
and yet complements it at the same time.
And it just doesn't ruin either. It doesn't diminish either.
Another thing I want to talk about with regards to this particular Dredd version is the use of cartoons as an adult medium. Interesting choice that Adi Shankar has made here, which is that he could have done this live action. It wouldn't have been as impressive, I don't believe.
It wouldn't have been as culturally appropriate either.
It is still quite risky because for the normal media viewing public, cartoons are still thought of as the children's medium. Now, you don't think like that because you watch so much material that you're aware of.
But
where
also,
everything is.
I'm just old enough that my entire life has been saturated by that, and all the cartoons I watched were really geared towards older, more mature audiences.
Yeah.
Like right from the start, Dexter's Laboratory, through to when I first really started watching and appreciating television. South Park first came on, and then Futurama, and throughout the rest of it, they've all been kind of aimed at mature audiences.
Yeah, and if you consider the spectrum and sort of the 120 years of film history that we have available to us.
Jesus, 120 years.
Congratulations,
yeah.
film.
Cheers. You look at, so Family Guy, Futurama, South Park, Archer, most recently. Now this. It's a very recent phenomenon. Very, very recent. It's like the last sort of 5% of that 100% that you have available. But what I love about Dredd is that it does something entirely different. It's not a comedy. First thing about this cartoon is it's not a comedy. It's grotesquely funny, and there are bits of it that make you go.
I would call it a dark comedy.
Yeah, but I mean,
it's not a traditional comedy.
Humor is not its aim.
Yeah,
no.
Put it that way.
But I really like what I'm really excited about as both a filmmaker and somebody who watches this or tries to watch a lot of this kind of stuff, is that Adi Shankar is pushing it in a direction of cartoons not just being an adult comedy medium, but using it for drama and stuff that the stuff we're talking about here with the youth drug and the depth, plumbing the depths of drama with these shows. And I really like the idea, and I'm personally very excited that Adi Shankar, because he's the tip of the iceberg. There'll be more will come, but the fact that this show looks like the beginning of cartoons not just being taken seriously as a comedy, but being taken seriously, for action and drama and all those kinds of things.
So rather than our traditional personalized rating systems, we're just going to give our own impressions of how we feel about the show, and I am impressed. This has made an impression on me, and I really, really want to watch it again. And I want to watch every other thing that Adi Shankar puts his name to.
I'll sum up my review quickly, unlike I do usually. Adi Shankar, Gianquetto Brothers, keep making more stuff. Just
absolutely
keep making stuff.
The things that I really appreciated about this series are the cultural specificity and the dedication to that specific era of animation in the mid-90s MTV generation. And surprisingly, the emotional depth of the series got me engaged as well. It's so powerful and interesting and really concisely and efficiently expressive. And I think fans of the franchise will enjoy it as much as non-fans who have a strong appreciation for cinema and animation.
So there you have it. We all really enjoyed this, and we all really want you to watch this show. We'll put a link in the description below, and if there's anything else you guys want us to review, put it in the comments.